Hi, it's Sue Stockdale, your host for the Sports 2000 podcast. This series takes you behind the scenes of this British sports car prototype series that gives drivers the chance to compete at some of the UK and Europe's finest circuits every year. My guest today is Chaz Draycott, a professional motorsports and esports commentator who will be in the commentary box at some of the Sports 2000 rounds this year. So welcome to the podcast, Chaz.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Really excited, and I'm intrigued to see what we can discuss and get up to.
Well, before we get right into the content about the SRCC Sports 2000, it'd be helpful for the listener to know a little bit about you, Chaz.
Well, to be fair, I'm unlike a lot of people in motorsport. I wasn't actually born into a motorsport family. My dad had a vague interest in Formula One and the British Touring Car Championship, and I just fell in love with the machinery, fell in love with the idea of the whole event. And it got me intrigued with commentary. You know, I grew up with some of the greatest commentators in the world on TV, Murray Walker and Martin Brundle, the likes of Charlie Cox and John Watson on the British Touring Car Championship. I was spoiled for choice when it came to really entertaining motorsport. So eventually I started playing with toy cars, commentating on it in my own way, making everything up. And here we are now. I do it for real. I do it full time, and it's a dream come true.
Now, most people might say that they enjoy watching motorsport, and perhaps even fewer might enjoy driving in motorsport. But I think it's even fewer that commentate on motorsport. So that's quite a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a lot of passion behind the whole motorsport crowd. Everybody loves their own little aspect of it. I know people that would rather work on the spanners side of things than actually driving the cars. They have a passion for the mechanical intricacies of machinery. Finding commentators at the moment, after the esports boom of the last 12 months or so during COVID and all the stuff that we don't really want to talk about, it's helped because it's brought out a different breed of commentators that have moved over from esports to the real world, as I have as well. I think that the commentary side it's a niche, certainly a niche.
And now you've introduced a couple of words there, the esports and the real world, of course, which is Sports 2000. What is the difference when you're commentating on both of those different things?
This is going to sound very undermining and maybe a bit negative, but I find real world commentary is a lot easier, especially when you're there at the circuit. I mean, if it's broadcasted, then it's very similar to the esports stuff that I do. But when you're in a box, you can only commentate on what you can see. And not every commentary box in the country can see the whole circuit. I mean, Brands Hatch, for instance, you see them go down Paddock Hill, up to Druids, maybe back down. There's a massive air conditioning unit at the back of the box that's in the way, so you can't see them come behind the pit lane, which is really handy. Thank you, MSV. But once they go round Surtees and off to the Forest, you've got no chance. You just have to rely on the timing screens. Some circuits have CCTV and other things to help you, like Silverstone. I know they have a massive screen with loads of different camera views on it. But even then, CCTV, and it's not the highest quality pictures in the world. So I think the main difference is that the esports stuff keeps you more on your toes because you have the ability to be everywhere at once. There's no physical demand for it, really. But nothing beats the sounds and the smells and the sights of being there in person, in honesty. Even when you are in a commentary box, and usually the sights and smells are whoever you're commentating with, but a lot of the time it's just great to be there at an event. And to be fair, that's one thing I'm looking forward to this year, getting back out there.
And I know that 2020 was your first year in commentating for Sports 2000. What was your impression of having that experience?
I've always enjoyed club level motorsport. Me and a friend used to always go to Alton Park. We actually had the very, I don't know if you'd call it proud moment where we realised that we'd been to every single four-wheeled event at Alton Park in 2010, I think it was. We used to live near there, so we used to just cycle to the circuit and then just cycle home in the evening. And we went to every single car-based event that year. And you got to learn a lot more than just the elite level motorsports like the BTCC and Formula One. You know, they're not all just people with billions and billions of pounds at the top level. These guys they're honest, real people that have a smaller budget, more realistic interpretation of what raw motorsport is. And in honesty, I fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. And the way that the whole paddock is, everybody's so friendly. The motorsport, though, is still so fierce. I won't lie, and I said this to Roger as well. Roger, the series secretary. I turned up at the first race meeting, got to know all the guys, and I thought, quite a few old boys in this paddock, you know, some of the veterans of motorsport, you could say, you know, they're getting on a bit, but by God, it doesn't stop them on track. You watch them on track and you'd think they were all just 20-year-olds that had just got their first race car and just gone, right, I'm going to win this, I'm going to do this. You know, they're proper feisty on track, and it's just great because I think there's a bit of best of both worlds in that situation.
So it sounds like that experience counts for something in terms of age.
Yes, it does.
In terms of then you being asked to commentate at these different circuits, Chaz, what's the sort of preparation that you have to do? The drivers are doing their prep with their cars and themselves. What's your prep for commentating?
A lot of the time, as I did last year, when you go into a new series and you get to know new people, you don't always have an outreach to speak to them directly and ask them certain things about their career. It can also be seen as a bit invasive if you just start emailing someone, oh, tell me where you finished on this date on this year. Most of my prep comes from looking at results. I'm a humongous fan of a spreadsheet. So even if I have to take information and make it into a spreadsheet myself, I'll go and do that to paint a picture of who's consistent, who's usually up there, who has bad luck. Look at old race reports as well, because as much as you can put results and numbers on a sheet, it doesn't tell you the whole story. So if somebody had, say, been winning a race all the way through and broke down on the last lap, but it shows on the sheet they finished 22nd, you might not pick that up from that. But a lot of the prep comes through from that, learning car numbers. I think car numbers and details like that, helmet designs even, they're an identity in motorsport, and they're important things that I think commentators should pick up on that we don't really that much at the moment. But it's just mainly looking at how you can identify a car as well, liveries, things like that. And this series is not short on a bright livery or two. They certainly do know how to make their cars stand out. But a lot of it is just looking back on previous things that have happened. Try and arm yourself with some stats. So if you've seen somebody get a lot of podiums, maybe they've got 9 podiums. At the moment they cross the line, if you've drilled that into your head enough, you can instantly think, oh, I remember that. This guy's got 9 podiums. And it's like, right, that's his 10th podium since whenever. You can tell a bit more of a story, and it gives people that are listening that little bit more of an insight as to that driver's career or just their progress, for example.
So here's a little test for you, Chaz. I've been to quite a number of the race meetings myself, so I've got a few numbers in my head. If you saw number 32 go by, who would that be?
Jesus, this is going to be really bad now. Is it John Owen? It's not, is it? It's not John. It's not John.
I'll let you out your misery. Chris Snowden.
Oh, I was thinking 33 for Chris, but that's Mike Fry, I believe, the number 33, because he's in the white and blue Lola. I'm sorry, Chris.
Hi, it's me again. To let you know that support for this podcast comes from Broadtown Brewery, the microbrewery in Wiltshire with big ambitions. Their diverse assortment of beers range from classic best bitters and hoppy American West Coast IPAs, through to Baltic porters and Belgian triples. Only the best quality ingredients go into their beers, and their close attention to detail ensures that you can drink beers that are full of flavour and true to style. You can have them delivered straight to your doorstep, no matter where you live. So go on over to the website broadtownbrewery.co.uk and make your choice now. So if your memory on the numbers isn't that great, Chaz, tell us about last season then. What were the highlights for you in each of the categories? The Pinto, the historic Pinto and the Durotex.
I must admit, one of the highlights for me was how much Pete Needham contradicted himself in the Pintos, because I met Pete at the first round at Snetterton, got on with him like a house on fire. He's a really honest bloke, really easy to speak to, top guy. And he turned up with his wonderful Van Diemen, and I've fallen in love with that car. It's so curvy and elegant, as a lot of the Pintos are, without all the huge wings and things on them. And he told me in a million different words how awful the car was, how slow it was, how down on power, the gearbox was rubbish, and he really wasn't selling it to me. But then he went out and won both races that day because the car was just consistent and he could put the laps in. And then he went and won the championship. He won that class. So the highlight for me is the fact that Pete was so modest about the car early on, but went and won the title. When it comes to the Durotex, there's only one highlight that people can really mention, and that's Michael Gibbons. The lad is a star. He's so talented, so quick, and so consistent. And out of the car, he's such a lovely lad. He's just so modest. He'll always thank you if you congratulate him. He'll always say, he won't sit there and be like, me. If he's had a good race with somebody, he'll say, oh, I know, thank you. I know it was a good race. I'm happy I won, but, how quick was Josh or how quick was Tom? They did great. And he's always sharing the experience, even when it's talking about his win. He's a very deserving champion. He won every race this year outright, and it's just an incredible record. And the scary thing for everybody else now is that he's just got a new MCR for this upcoming year. The one he had was a few years old. So it's going to be very intriguing to see how he does there. I'd say another highlight really for me was Josh Law as well. Josh really came on strong this season. We've become quite friendly with his team and his dad Ian as well. I've been to many Saturday night barbecues at their awning with them. So Thanks for the sausages and the burgers, Ian. Josh really came of age this year in the championship. He was so close to getting a couple of wins here and there. And the maturity in his driving is showing. And I think this upcoming year, if Gibbons doesn't completely run away, I think Josh is going to be one of the stars to look for.
That's a hot tip to look out for then, Chaz.
Yeah.
And as you're doing that preparation and thinking about the year ahead and what you're going to talk about when you see those cars going around on the track, you've done your analysis ahead of time, you know the colours of the cars, the numbers and so on. How do you work out what to say at any given moment?
I got asked this not long ago, and I still don't think I've got a proper answer for it. But a lot of the time, people do say, commentary's not that hard. You just say what you see. And a lot of the time we do. I think we just have to put a different twist of vocabulary on it just to make it a bit more descriptive. Somebody could say, so-and-so has gone through the corner, or you could say, he's hurled it around Druids. And one of those two sentences would be more entertaining to listen to. In my eyes, anyway. People might like it in black and white. But it's just about making sure that you're not repeating yourself, which is one key thing that I definitely do way too often. I suppose you just got to make it lighthearted and entertaining. And it's just a case of choosing your words and doing it so quickly as well. One thing I do like to do is driver puns based on their names. And it's gotten quite bad recently, I won't lie, with the esports side of things. Everybody takes it lightly. And I sometimes feel when I'm up there in the commentary box for Sports 2000, there's a lot of it's just through the PA. It's not broadcast or recorded a lot of the time. I feel I can get away with a bit more. Somebody in the paddock told me to call Giles the Duke of somewhere. I cannot remember the name anymore. But throughout the whole final weekend at Brands, I just called Giles the Duke, just for the whole thing. It might have even been the Lord, actually. But I'm not sure. In honesty, I don't know. It just comes to my head. I shout out different things, and sometimes it gets a laugh with a bit of a punny twist on it, to be fair. But it's good fun all the same, though, because it keeps me on my toes. That's the thing. A lot of commentators I've heard say it's quite relaxing, and I'm thinking, are you doing it right? Because this is really exciting. I don't like commentating sitting down. I do that from here in the esports side of things because I have to. But honestly, I'd be stood up if I could because it just gets you going. I bounce around the commentary box like a lunatic. I mean, anybody that's commentated with me will tell you. But in short, I don't know.
It sounds like the actual secret is not to think and just to go with the flow and what comes into your mind.
Yeah, that's a fair analysis. Definitely, because you do get these moments where you'll get halfway through a race and you won't remember anything you've said. If you've said the odd pun or mentioned something more serious, not serious, but something more important that's happened in the race, then you'll remember that bit. But then the fill 5 minutes between when you're just describing times and laps and stuff like that, it just goes out your head.
As you're thinking about the season ahead, you've mentioned Josh Law as somebody we should be looking out for. Mm-hmm. Are there any other highlights that we should be, as spectators, be paying attention to with the upcoming season?
There's going to be a few more drivers out next season that weren't with us in 2020, which is very exciting. They do have a few WhatsApp groups in Sports 2000 that they all discuss what's coming up, people sorting their entries out and so on. How Roger keeps everybody under control via a WhatsApp group, I don't know, because he's an absolute legend for doing so. I'm intrigued with those new drivers coming in because I've got no experience of what they've done before. A lot of the time it's easier to remember a race that you've actually been there and commentated on because you've described the events. So you sort of retain a bit of the information rather than ones before and just reading it off a sheet. So having new names on the list is going to be good. Along with Gibbons and Josh Law and the Durotex, I'd say Tom Stoughton is always good to look out for. He had a lot of bad luck last year, but he still managed to finish high up in the championship. So if he's back in that same gun TS11 again, he will be a contender. I did write down that Lesniewski and Billingsley as well, they were so quick this season. There's a sort of top 6 or top 8 that are consistently up there. But Lesniewski and Billingsley stood out for me. Both of them really nailed getting the car off the line as well, which was helpful for them in the early stages of a race. And the man with no luck, that honestly, if Paul Traherne had no bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. He's been so fast. That car looks so good as well. And it goes as well as it looks. So if he turns around what was a lot of bad luck in 2020, I reckon Paul could be right up there. If we went to Pintos, though, it's hard to say. You know, it's so competitive in that class. There's different people winning all the time. Richard Cook's been quick. Paul Street as well. He was fast at Brands. I believe he won both races at the last one. Then again, I might just be saying that because he's in a Lola and I'm madly in love with all of them. Chris Snowden, who you mentioned before as well, he's always on it. There's new drivers that are coming in that are going to be mixing it with the big boys, I reckon. You know, there's some names where even just judging off what people have said in the WhatsApp group, you know, they've been like, oh, so-and-so's coming back. Brilliant. There's a lot of positive praise of these drivers coming back. And I think, again, that highlights how good the community of it is as well.
And where are the circuits that we're likely to see this year then, Chaz?
We're going to Brands Hatch twice, I believe, again, which is always good. Brands is my second favourite circuit in the UK after my local, Alton Park, which I am so excited that they're coming back to. I am honestly over the moon. I can't wait to combine the two things I love, Sports 2000 racing and Alton Park. I'm going to be bouncing off the walls that weekend. Really can't wait. We're going to Snetterton as well. So I think that's the last round of the season as well, Snetterton. They're making a return to Cadwell Park, which is going to be an intriguing one. I've seen pictures of these cars airborne over what they call the mountain at Cadwell Park, so that'll always be exciting. And we're going back to Donington as well. I didn't get a chance to see these cars race at Donington last year, and Donington is a very high-speed circuit in the first half the lap, so I'm intrigued to see what they do around there. But it's a good mix of circuits, though, really is.
Well, it's fantastic to speak to you today, Chaz, and I look forward to hearing your commentary at some of those circuits in this season and see whether any of your predictions are likely to come true.
Smashing stuff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chaz. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing from Chaz Draycott, and it certainly makes my job easier when the guest has plenty to say. If you want to find out more about him, then hop over onto his website at chazdraycott.com. And to get more details about the Sports 2000 Championship, you can find out all about that at their website, sports2000.co.uk. In the next episode, I will be talking to Chris Snowden, who drives car number 32 and is a stalwart of the Sports 2000 Championship, to find out why sometimes he holds his breath throughout an entire lap at Brands Hatch. I'll look forward to connecting with you then.